you. What do you need? Yeah. There's no surprises on this one from me. Oh. Okay. You know what? I'll do that. All right. Who should I give it to? Okay. Give it back. Okay. I'll come over here. I want to sit by Todd. 53.75. Really? Check. Huh? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we got contractors for 5 years. If they want to buy the other pay, I get it. But someone has
Okay, we all want to rise for the pledge of allegiance tonight. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. No one signed in under recognition of visitors, so we'll go on to roll call.
Here. Whittlesey?
Here.
Gum?
Here.
Pusateri? Here. Burchett? Here.
The meeting is called to order. Under the President's report, I want to thank all the people who helped with the levy committee. It's tireless efforts, and then you're let down. So we're all still recovering for the next couple of days. But for anyone who went door to door, who made phone calls, who helped with flyers, helped with passing them out, the letters from the teachers, the signs to everybody. They put them in their yards. I mean, we had a great committee, and hopefully we can get more participation for March. Also, I wanted to thank a few people. I don't know if you guys knew this, but the day of the Rootstown game, our field was completely wet and flooded. Or not flooded, but part of it was really wet. And we had a group of people who came up Thursday night when it stopped raining and pumped the field and put some money into it and some time into it and to get it ready for the game. And then they were willing to be there the next day to help with the soccer game. But and then it started raining, so it was kind of a effort that didn't come to fruition. But I want to thank Lee Horning and Matt and Todd Wise and Steve Adelman and Dave Miller, because they worked at it and they tried their best, and that's what the community and the school is about. So I want to thank them for that. Okay, that's all I have on the president's report. Andy?
Okay. Under superintendent's report, a number of updates, but I want to have a PowerPoint here to touch on some of these. Let me, if you don't mind, I'm going to move this over here.
Stay right there. How's it feel?
I want to start tonight talking about a college readiness report that we recently became aware of. And I think it's got some good information here about the quality of what's happening at Waterloo. Two of our teachers, Sandy Adams and Paul Phillips, recently were at a meeting at the county ESC about these new Common Core standards that are going to be rolled out over the next few years. And part of what they were talking about with that was the whole idea that these new standards really stress college readiness. And so they came back with some information that at least I had not seen before. There's two reports that the Ohio Boards of Regents have put together. Maybe more. These are the two I'm aware of. The first was a profile of recent high school graduates enrolled as first-year college students from fall of 2003 to fall of 2007. That report was put out in July of 2009. The second one, the participation rates in developmental course enrollment, it's a similar report, just based off of the graduates, high school graduates of 2008, and then first-time college students in the fall of 2008. That was put out in May of 2010. There's a couple notes here. At the beginning of the one from 2008, they do talk about the importance of how you interpret these results. They use caution. They say that they've got their best possible information they can to ensure accuracy. They talk about small number issues with districts that have small numbers of graduates, that a 5-year average is probably a better indicator for your district than looking at a single year on average. And then they talk about these different columns that you'll see here in a minute. But they talk about how they calculate the different numbers that you'll see there. So for example, under participation, what they do is they take a look at the percent of high school graduates enrolled in any public or private college in Ohio. Data on the out-of-state college attendance at the district and high school levels on the table. So what we're going to see here is strictly based upon students that are leaving Ohio high schools and going to Ohio colleges or universities. There are a few columns where it's based upon, where they talk about, you'll see high school curriculum that they took. That's based upon a survey that the students completed when they took their ACT or their SAT class. Okay. Then remedial course enrollment, that's reported directly from the colleges. So they give a percentage of the students from each school that had to take remedial English, remedial math, or both. So that's what we're going to take a look at here. So So when we take a look at the 2003 to 2007 averages, we broke this down with the average of the state of Ohio, Portage County average in the middle, and then Waterloo local over here on the right. So the first is the percentage of college graduates, or percentage of high school graduates entering college in Ohio. You can see we're at 43%, which is very similar to Portage and the state of Ohio averages. Percent of graduates entering a public or private four-year college in the state of Ohio. Again, 32%. Again, fairly similar to the county and the state. Percent of high school graduates entering a public two-year college in Ohio. See our percentage kind of falls between the county and the state. Our average ACT score, you see we're higher than the state average and the same as the county. The percent of our students that have to take remedial math, it's 35%, compared to 38 in the county, 32 in the state. And then remedial English, we're at 10%, compared to 14 in the county and 21 at the state. And then when you combine the taking the remedial math and English, again, we're between the state and the county averages. And I'm going to have to show you this other report here in a minute, but I think what's important about this is, you know, a lot of times being newer to the district, you know, as you sit and listen, as I sat and listened to a number of people throughout our community and continue to do so, a lot of times questions come up with how well are we preparing our students for college? And I think what this shows us here, and again, there's limitations with this, as we saw to begin with, but I think what this shows us is that our students that are going to college are doing well when we compare them to the other schools in Portage County, and we compare them to the state of Ohio averages. Could we do better? Sure. We could always do better on anything. As we sit here, those of you that have been here before, when we talk about our report cards, and we take a look at excellent with distinction or excellent, you know, we always highlight the areas where we feel we can be making improvements too, because, you know, while this is good, we don't ever want to settle for good. We want to continue to do and move forward and do the best we possibly can for our students. But I think by and large, this really shows that the students that are coming to Waterloo are receiving a quality education here. This is a chart taken straight from the report in 2010. Wasn't able to get state averages. They didn't include those in that 2010 report. And if you picked it up on the door, I gave you copies of the parts where this information came from, but and including the cover page. So if you want to dig out this entire report yourself, you can. The cover page for both. But again, this is 1 year of data. This is the graduates in the class, high school class of 2008, and compared, and then freshman year entering into the fall of 2008 into college. And again, what you'll see here, when you get into each of these different areas, is that Waterloo is doing very well when you compare us to the other schools here in the county. Now, some of these categories that are based a little bit more on the survey type things, you know, those may be taken a little bit more lightly than the ones where you're actually just reporting the data. You know, if students are deciding whether they had a Ohio core curriculum versus you'll see that if you look in that handout a little bit more, versus a college prep curriculum versus the standard or the not standard curriculum, and then they're making some decisions off of that. But all these other things with the percentage of the remedial classes being taken, those are reported directly from the colleges. And so you can see here, to highlight our road, 36% of our students in the class of '08 moved on to a public university or regional campus, the main or the regional campus. 5% went into a community college. 35% of our students took either developmental math or English, and then as we get further here, 30% taking developmental math and 5% in developmental English. Not sure what this last category is, to be honest. I tried to track down what this meant because it seems to be the same over here. And I believe that this is tied into the survey results that the students filled out with the type of curriculum they took in high school. But I was not able in that report to verify that. So again, go ahead, Mark.
I think the middle column there is percentage of students entering, taking developmental math or English, and the last column is taking both and English.
Okay.
That's the way I interpret it.
Okay, yeah, that's probably true. Okay, catch that. So again, you know, the 5-year averages show it, 1 year of data from 2008 show it. Yeah, I would take this to mean that the education that the students are getting here at Waterloo, for those that are moving on to college, they're prepared well when you compare us to the other schools in Portage County, and when you compare us to the state of Ohio on average. Okay, any questions on this before I move on? This is all I wanted to show.
The one thing I want to, have you done any, I don't know if we've done any kind of, got any data from school? I mean, that number could be a lot higher for us too, for the kids that are going to private colleges and shit. Because that might be misleading to put out it's only 36%.
When we have more going, I'm sure other places. Yeah, that's something to keep in mind with all of this. I mean, this is the data we have. That's a very good point to reiterate, that this is strictly public colleges or universities.
All those 96 kids from Waterloo, how many of those seniors go to Maple?
How many of those seniors?
No, I mean, well, you got.
In 08, I couldn't tell you that. We have 68 students in Maplewood right
So you
now.
couldn't break that down, how many seniors?
I could, I just can't tell you that off the top of my head.
That's telling me 60 kids at Waterloo, what are we prepared for? To go out into the world and live, to earn a living. Seems like we emphasize more in college. At every school there, you look at some of those other, Roosevelt, got 126 going on to college. So what do they do with all these other kids that didn't go on to better themselves? I mean, you get like, I don't know, you see it every day.
Any other questions up here? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on here. I wanted to give you an update. We have put in an application to be considered for a tax credit, is what it comes down to, from the Portage Soil and Water Conservation District Stormwater Credit Plan. There was a tax that was put into place, or a fee put into place a few years back. And I think Waterloo's fee is somewhere around $2,300 a year. This is money that gets charged to us now for stormwater runoff. And when they put that into place, they allowed for a provision for places like schools to be able to do a plan to reduce by a certain percentage the amount of money we have to pay for that tax if we do different things. You can apply at the 25, 50, or 75% reduction level. So we met recently, we being myself and Ken Riley, who's one of our high school science teachers. He teaches our environmental science and is really into this type of thing. And we met with Lynn Vogel and a gentleman named James that deal with this through Portage County. And what we've decided to do is go ahead and apply to see if we can get this 75% reduction. It's over a 3-year period of time. If we receive this, we will save as a district about a little over $5,000 in that tax over that 3-year period of time. In order to do that, though, each of these kind of represent a different level. 25% level is pretty simple, actually. What happens is we put up some poster boards that talk about some different things with stormwater education. We pass out some brochures to people as they come into one event. So we're going to do this at one of our boys' basketball games if we're able to get this. The 50% level involves having 2 teachers that get trained in Project Wild, and then it's an aquatic curriculum, and then integrated into what they're doing in the classroom. Ken Riley's already doing that here at the high school, and they're willing to count him as one. And we have another teacher in the district that's very interested in this, and that would fit in with what he is doing as well. The third part that gets us to that 75% reduction level is a project, and they believe that they have money to fund 2 projects for us. The first would be to enlarge the life lab that we have. I don't know if you're aware, but this is a Google map here that Ken put together. Over on this corner, so this is back by the loop by the elementary playground over here. Those of you that drop elementary students off every day, you drive right by this. There's a little area that looks like it hasn't been mowed, and it hasn't. And it's got all these little orange flags that are there. That's been growing, I think, for about 3 years now. It's a little life lab area that Ken takes his class out to regularly, and they do a lot of different things there. In addition to that, Mr. Timberlake next door has graciously allowed us to use this portion of his property for our students with the little stream that runs through here. We were able to get that covered under, get him added onto our district liability for no cost, so there's no issue there. What we're looking to do as part 1 of this project is to expand this life lab through this area here. And if we're able to get this, he'll get a lot of equipment that'll go with this, some bird houses and probing instruments and different things. They didn't bring the actual application with me, but this is one piece of it, would be to expand that life lab this distance. So this would run from where it is currently, right by the road, over to about 10 feet before that brick wall that separates the bus garage. This is the cafetorium area here. And then we would keep it about 10 feet away from the building. The other piece that they actually brought to our attention and that they're very interested in helping us with, if the funding goes through for this, is these projects, I should mention, these projects and the curriculum and all this stuff is completely covered through this. So in addition to that tax credit we get, they also pay for this stuff to get done, the equipment that's needed. I think the equipment for that first part that I showed you is about $30,000 that Ken has asked for. This second piece is in our back, and I'll go back to this, although I don't know if you can really see it. Over here, we have some drainage areas, and they're not certain that the way that our land is sloped, that the water can actually get all the way back to where it needs to. Right about here, which is this area between the 2 practice fields, it kind of goes up, and so the water's not really able to get to where it goes. So if we get this, they're willing to have their engineer work to design plans. They're willing to take care of the cost of getting that area there to have the proper slope and what's needed to get the water back to where it needs to be. They believe that they can do that. The space is limited here for practicing and other things. They believe that they can do that in that middle area, which won't affect either of these practice fields that get used heavily during the fall season. So the latest we heard this past week is that it goes in front of their, I don't know if it's a board that they operate with, it goes before their board on, I believe it's November 15th. And if it gets approved there, then it goes to the Portage County Commissioners at their December meeting. So we're supposed to hear something back after November 15th. If we get through there, I may go and attend that Commissioners meeting to see if we can get this through there also. Questions? I'm going to jump around a little bit out of the order just to finish this. And then, I wanted to give you a little update on busing too. Just because this is the time of year that we have to submit what's called the T1 report to the state of Ohio, which lists our ridership and total miles traveled. So I thought because of our change that we made in the middle of last year, that it might be interesting just to take a look at what actually has changed outside of everybody being K-12 on these buses. So last October, we were traveling a total of 1,337 miles a day. between everything that gets done. This year, we're down to 984. We have been down to 984 since the end of last January. I found this interesting too. Trying to quantify how many students we've actually lost when we made that change. That was one of the things that we had discussion on last December. And some of the feedback we had heard from parents was that they wouldn't have their students on the bus. You can see we're down about 70, 75 kids. I should mention, the students are an average. The way that they make you do the report, it's an average of your students over the week in the AM only. So some of our drivers believe that the PM is actually when we have more students on the bus, but we're not allowed to count that. It has to be the morning. So 836 and 761 this year. So, you know, I believe it's accurate to state that those numbers that we projected last year with these savings are real. I think the number that we use with this, just per mile, the number that we use when we're charging out a field trip to somebody like St. Joe's, if they use our transportation, I believe it's $1.50. I believe it's $1.57 a mile. And if you do the math on that alone, it's almost $100,000 each year just in the miles on top of the salaries that were reduced when we made those changes too. So it appears that the numbers that Todd was able to come up with last year and Tim Fox at the time are very, very accurate. That's all I have on this PowerPoint. I'm going to move this back and I'll go through the rest of the stuff.
You guys want, there's a couple of chairs here if you want to move it. You sure? Yeah. Okay, I still want to stand on it, huh?
Okay, the roof update. We continued, I don't have a lot to share tonight, other than to just tell you, we continued to meet with Hummel Construction, with Hammond, who was the project manager when this was done. Hummel oversaw the entire, was the construction company. And then AVG, who was the architects. I think I shared at our last meeting that we believe now that the issue that we're having is not a roof issue, but a masonry issue. And so the discussion has now shifted to what actually needs to be done to fix our problem. There's a lot of discussion about through wall flashing and some other things. So I will continue to keep you posted. I will say, so far, we've been able to get cooperation from all parties involved to try to figure out how to resolve this issue that we have with these leaks. And so hopefully I'll be able to report back soon that we have a solution in hand and people willing to do that. Everything that's been done so far on this with the removal of the brick and the investigation they did behind it, that was done at Hummel's expense, not ours. So we're hoping as we move forward, the fixes that need to be done will be covered as well, so that it's not costing the district money.
Do we have written guarantees or warranties or anything from?
We do. We have a big binder of, I forget what it's called, but it's a binder basically of warranties.
Okay.
So, you know, the original belief was, over the years here, is that this issue was a roof issue on the metal roof. And once we got them out here, found out that really wasn't the case, but it wasn't an easy solution to figure out. It took a while, and it's really still we're still in that process of figuring out all the components to it.
I mean, do we have it to where these are covered under what we have for the written that we can point back to, and there's no chance that they'll come back and charge us?
We're in the process of dealing with that.
Okay.
I don't have a clear answer for you on that. It's a little complicated, but it's our belief that this is a defect of the building from the time that it was built, and as such, was not what we paid for. So. Athletic trainer, last meeting it was asked if we needed to have an athletic trainer by Ohio high school rules. I called down there. We do not have to have one, but they made it very clear that they highly recommend that districts do for certain events. Viking Award, just wanted to mention that Nick Julia has decided to start a new award here at the high school for students that participate in athletics and have a 3.4 GPA or higher. They'll receive what he's calling the Viking Award, a certificate for the season that they participate in. So similar to what's done at the PTC level, I think, with Scholar Athlete or whatever they call it. But in conversations with Nick and Lisa, wanted to have something that would include the other students too that aren't necessarily on the varsity level. So that's where this idea grew from. A couple other odds and ends here. The BMI waiver that was approved by you to submit, I believe back in July or August. We got word this past week that it was approved for this year, so we're excused again from the BMI requirement. The gym and weight room policy that we've been talking about for alumni and community. Just an update, I continue to work with our attorney. She believes that we can craft such a policy, and actually I got it from her today. I have some questions for her on it, so I'll be passing that on to you soon to take a look at. But it appears with what she's done that we should be able to do that in a way where there's oversight, accountability, and not having to have this $1 million liability insurance carrier coverage and some other things. So as soon as I get the language tweaked with her, I'll forward it on to you and potentially have it on the agenda for next month.
And that'll be something that'll become part of the work policy.
Yes,
right?
correct. It would become a new policy that would be separate and different from the one on building rental and usage where you submit the usage form. I gave you a copy of, this is another thing that we recently received here. I set a copy for you up there. I just wanted to make note, when we had the gentleman from the ODE here at the end of September 29th, Roger Harden, he mentioned that after we had just submitted that revised not revised, but our new 5-year forecast, and he had mentioned that if we exceeded that 2% projected revenue beginning in fiscal year 20, or negative revenue, fiscal year 2013, that we would be receiving a letter from him and be very close to being placed in fiscal caution. So true to his word, we did receive this letter. I think it was emailed out on last Friday evening. We have until December 30th of this year to submit a plan to him with how we would go about eliminating this projected $380,000 plus deficit for next school year. So we'll have obviously some discussions on that, but I just wanted you to know that what he told us when he came here actually would follow through. So.
Do we know how, and I remember him saying that if we were past that 2% limit, is it only, for us to go into a fiscal caution, is that only if we can't say how we're going to get to that below 2%? Or, I mean, if we submit $300,000 and some for the cuts for next year, they keep us in the black, which is a lot of money to cut, do they not put us in that?
Yeah, we received a similar letter like this last year, and we submitted that plan showing how we eliminated the $950,000. And so my understanding, and Todd jump in if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that if we submit a plan that shows how we're back to zero for fiscal year 13, that we would not be placed into fiscal caution. But the caveat there is that they have to approve what you submit. They don't just approve anything. Last year, what we submitted was very detailed with all those different things that had taken place, and so we'll have to have discussions on all of that with how we proceed for this year. But December 30th, according to the OD, is our time frame that we're working with. What I do know too is that if we submit something that says we're relying on the next levy to pass, they will not accept that as a suitable plan. Whether it passes or not, whether you need it or not, that's not good enough for them to keep you out of that stage.
Today they placed Lorraine City in fiscal emergency.
Okay,
Isn't our real issue too with that is that we're getting to the point where there's just not enough left to cut to write a plan
That's right.
that is moving past.
That's correct.
That's really whether that's December 30th of this year or we can't pass the levy next year, it's next year. So eventually we're going to get to that point where there's just not enough.
Nothing, yeah, it's exactly right.
And I just heard Lorraine City, they just announced a layoff of 100 teachers. Is that, or is it a big number?
So they were placed in the fiscal emergency today.
Right, and they just announced that layoff today too. I just saw it.
The only other thing I wanted to mention here, was there another question?
I was just gonna say, okay, so whenever we sent that letter last year that said about the cuts, how long did it take before they got back to us to tell us if that was okay?
Exact time frame, was it?
I want to say that it wasn't too, I don't think it was too long.
Was it March?
It's maybe a month and a half or so.
I'll have to go back and look.
I'm just thinking,
You know what, I
the
have it
election will
right
be in
here.
March, so, I mean,
Well, other business.
when the letter comes back, will we be pretty close to the next election is what that's just.
I want to say it was about a month and a half. And
About
and
the
that,
middle of
and I
February?
say that that's not too long. It's not too long in ODE time.
Right.
That, it's a long period of time, but not in that sense. I just wanted to thank one other group. Mr. and Mrs. McCaleb recently came in last week, and they had wanted to reach out to the students here at the school, make sure that students knew who to contact if they had trouble. They wanted to take some of the money that they had from what had happened last spring and turn around and give it back to Waterloo. And so what they did was they purchased magnets for the lockers for middle and high school and stickers for the planners in grades 5 through 12 with the local crisis center numbers on them at Town Hall 2 in Coleman, the 24-hour hotlines, so that students have those if there's ever some type of a crisis or emergency they need. So that was distributed last week to our students. We're very appreciative of them for doing that.
I did talk to her, and she said that she spoke to all of fifth grade classes.
She did.
And that she had a really good response. I think some of the older children, middle school and high school, heard what she did. And that might be something we want her to do, is come in and talk to the class.
She actually did, at the
For
middle and the
health.
high school, she did the announcement over the
Right.
PA for them. And then at the elementary, because it was just the one grade level, chose to have it go into the room.
But I guess some of the kids have expressed interest to the teachers that it would be nice for her to come in and talk to their class. So that might be something else if we're going to continue on with the awareness that we've been doing. She might be a good one to come in and talk to us.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's all I have in the update. So, we can continue on, and when Todd finds that letter, we can just jump in.
That's fine, it's not a big deal. I was just thinking of the election being earlier, with it being in March, how close were we gonna know what they're gonna tell us before that election?
All right, so the first item I have tonight is to approve the superintendent's agreement for free attendance between the Northwest Local School District and the Waterloo Local School District for a senior student for the 2011-12 school year. Just a comment on this. This student has been in our district. Because of some family dynamics, we are not able to open enroll her as we would prefer to, and with her being a senior, we were able to enter in with something that the Ohio Revised Code allows to do this superintendent agreement so that she can legally stay here to finish her senior year. She is counted as part of our ABM with what happens and what's reported to the state and how funding flows.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the superintendent's agreement for for free attendance to the Northwest Local School District and the Waterloo Local School District.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? Roll call?
Hawk,
Yes.
Whittlesey,
Yes.
Gump,
Yes.
Busateri,
Yes.
Purchase.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, under personnel, recommend to issue the following personnel contracts contingent upon full and complete compliance with the State of Ohio and Waterloo Local Board of Education eligibility criteria.
Can I have a motion to issue the following personnel contracts contingent upon compliance in the state of Ohio and Waterloo Local Board of Education?
So moved.
Second? Second. Any questions or comments? Roll call?
Hawk,
Yes.
Whittlesey,
Yes.
Gump,
Yes.
Busateri,
Yes.
Purchase.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Recommend to issue a one-year limited bus driver contract to Ronald Rogers effective Monday, October 31st, 2011, contingent upon full and complete compliance with the State of Ohio and Waterloo Board of Education eligibility criteria. Just a note on this, last month when we hired Fran Ezinski into the supervisor of transportation part-time job, that opened up a bus driver position. So that's what we are filling here. We're not adding another bus to the road.
Okay. Can I have a motion to issue a one-year limited bus driver contract to Ronald Rogers?
So moved.
Second? Second. Any questions or comments?
So you and Todd haven't had to go out to get your CDL yet?
Yeah, we're still doing our own.
We don't really want them. Any other questions or comments? Roll call?
Hawk,
Yes.
Whittlesey,
Yes.
Gump,
Yes.
Busateri,
Yes.
Purchase.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Under operations, recommend to approve the resolution allowing the Waterloo Local School District to join the Ohio Schools Council as required to join the Ohio Schools Council Workers' Compensation Group Rated Program for the 2012 plan year with Shakely. We already mentioned before at a previous meeting that we're now eligible to get back into the group rating program for workers' comp, which will save the district money. In order to do that, we have to join this Ohio Schools Council, which is a minimal expense.
Can I have a motion to approve the resolution allowing Waterloo Local School District to join the OSC for the workers' compensation group?
So moved.
Second? Second. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, just quickly, they make this determination based on no claims over a certain period, is that how?
Todd would be a better one to answer that.
Yeah, a percentage of claims.
Okay.
So, for a small district such as ours, the one claim that it makes significant medical reserve attached to can kick you out, with one claim. Then once you're out, five-year window period, that claim has to go off your books before you're eligible to fall back into the group rating program.
Now, and how much does this save us a year now?
Well, with Shake, with your Ohio School Council, they're projecting about 52% savings. We've been with Ohio School Board Association in the past. We've been with Shake for quite a few years. They all pretty much the same percentage savings.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call?
Hawk,
Yes.
Whittlesey,
Yes.
Gump,
Yes.
Busateri,
Yes.
Purchase.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Recommend to approve the resolution pursuant to ORC 5705.21, determining to proceed with the submission to the electors of the Waterloo Local School District the question of an additional tax levy for the purpose of current expenses in the amount of 7.95 mils for a continuing period at the March 6, 2012 primary election. Just a couple notes here just to clarify. I see and hear a lot of misstatements about this. Two things. First, the reason that it's 7.95 and not 5 mils again is because we need more money to get out that similar period of time because we were losing a year of collections. Had we passed on Tuesday, we would have started collecting in January of 2012. If we don't now pass until March 6th, we're going to not collect until January of 2013. The second one is, I just saw something today actually. Somebody's saying that even if we would have passed Tuesday, we were going to ask for this again. And that's not accurate. The reason that this was put out as a first resolution prior to the election, and now tonight is the second and final, strictly deals with timeframes in the state of Ohio and how they've been moved up. We have to have 2 resolutions and all the necessary stuff that gets done between those resolutions from the auditor's office and the Board of Elections prior to December 7th. If we would have waited till tonight to pass the first resolution, we would have had to have a special board meeting to do that. And so it didn't seem like it made any sense for us to reconvene and hold a special meeting when we knew the deadlines we were working on. So that's why we had it as it was. Had we been successful on Tuesday, we would have removed this agenda item tonight.
We wouldn't have the second reading.
That's exactly right.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the resolution 2.07.95 note continuing to read levy on the ballot on March 6, 2012?
So moved.
Second? Any questions or comments?
And this basically gets us the same dollars, right? Well, I mean, the dollars to carry us out at that time, right?
Once we cut this 180,000.
I'm sorry?
We still have to cut that before the next school year, right?
If
This levy passes in March, then we'll be okay.
We won't have to make cuts before school starts next year?
If this levy
Pass in March.
passes.
If it passes.
It doesn't pass in March, everybody
We won't make cuts and put it back on. Okay. All right, any other questions or comments? Roll call?
Pop,
Yes.
Whittlesey, Gump,
Yes.
Busher,
Yes.
Burchett.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Accommodations, we have a number of those. I won't read all of them, but I will say that really 2 areas is where we're recognizing people tonight. First is for the volunteering at the 25th Annual Grandparents' Day. You can see there was a ton of volunteers headed by Sandy Arbogast. And then secondly, we have a number of our athletes that are recognized at the PTC level with either first team, second team, or honorable mention within each of our athletic areas. So we want to congratulate all of them. In addition, we have 3 of our coaches that were named Coach of the Year in the PTC. So we had a very good fall season. I believe 2 PTC championships, if I'm not mistaken, in boys soccer and volleyball. So it was a very successful fall season for our athletes on the field.
Okay, thank you. Under new business, Andy, anything on the Maplewood?
Maplewood on October 25th held the annual all-time boards dinner. And the culinary arts department did an excellent job. The food was very good. The Van Keating from the Ohio School Boards Association gave a presentation, and Superintendent Hill was there, and he has that information. It's going to be, over the next year or 2, very confusing as to what the school boards are going to be able to do. And I guess you'll just be taking one day at a time. On the legislative update, as you all know, Ohio electors have rejected issue 2, known as Senate Bill 5. And as a result, Senate SB 5 will not take effect. But the law has changed with regard to school employees through House Bill 153. And that's some of the things that Superintendent Hill has information on as it will slowly take effect. But some of the things that immediately will take effect is any schools, districts that are involved with Race to the Top, which we are not, will have to immediately adopt a salary schedule for teachers based on performance and not on seniority. Teacher and principal evaluations, the State Board of Education must develop a standard-based framework for the evaluation of teachers by December 31st of 2011. The statute requires framework to include a number of different components, including evaluating teachers based on student academic growth, accounting for 50%. Now, just exactly how they're going to count student academic growth, they really haven't decided yet in all the different subjects. And the State Board of Education will unveil Ohio's new teacher evaluation framework next week at the OSBA Capitol Conference. On July 1st, 2013, boards of education and consultation with teachers must adapt an evaluation policy that confirms the State Board of Education's framework. So that'll still be, that's what can be almost 2 years before they have to do the new adaptation, the new evaluation policy. But due to the budget bill revisions, school boards will be prohibited from giving preference to any teacher based on seniority for purposes of determining a RIF or restoring a teacher after RIFs, unless those teachers have the same evaluation. So RIFing will no longer be based on that, on seniority.
As of 7/1/2013.
As of September 29th, 2011, and then
That's the
after,
one that
whenever
goes
your
back.
current collective
Okay.
bargaining agreement ends, that kicks in.
That one's,
Then Representative Batchelder on election day, or the day before election, when it looked like SB 5 would not pass, he was quoted as saying that the legislature would submit a new legislation similar to SB 5, only it would exclude firefighters and police, and would only apply to public school employees. And then they would not be able to get enough signatures to put that up for referendum. However, the governor, after the election, he said that whether it's a political event or an athletic event, if somebody does a good job and they win, you need to congratulate them. And he said we have to listen to the people. So we'll just see what happens. House Bill 153 on vouchers is still under consideration and has not been acted upon yet. They expected to act on it possibly in the month of November. And they are still considering working on a consolidation of Ohio schools to present a proposal to the governor. Nothing has come out about that. About the only rumor that's coming out about that would be that they would consolidate administrative offices and school boards. And let me give you just an example. Just say, for example, Waterloo, Woodstown, and Field, they consolidated that and called it the Southwestern Portage County School District, would have one administrative office and one school board. I mean, that's just an example of possibly what they're talking about, and that is supposed to be presented to the governor or sometime, whatever the consolidation group is working on is supposed to be presented to him after the first of the year. Also, after the first of the year, he is supposed to come up with a new method of school funding for the next year of the biennium. So we will just all wait and see what, or you will all wait and see what happens. That's all I have.
Andy, quick question for you. I got the OSBA, the report. And it does say here that the schools that do participate in Race to the Top, that the teachers' salaries are based on performance, on their evaluations. Then it goes down and says that for all the other schools, that there has to be an evaluation process in place. Is there ever a time when they say, for non-race to the top, that salaries are based on evaluations?
Not right now, but possibly, as a, what did Van Keating, you mentioned about that, that
I don't remember what they
it
said.
would possibly, well, you could put it into effect if
Right.
people negotiate with it.
Right, but it's not a law, but it's not part of the
It's
budget.
not a law and doesn't appear it's going to be a law, but it might become a law. That's basically what he said.
It was in 7.5, which was struck down. That was,
Right.
It was mandated for everybody.
But there's some very vague things in House Bill 150 for the budget bill. There's some very vague issues that really haven't been decided how they're going to be, is what he was telling me.
Okay, does anybody have anything under other business?
I just wanted to kind of dovetail a little bit on part of Andy's presentation. We talked about the readiness, and just, he did a great job of explaining all how the data was formulated and where they got the data from. But basically, when we sent our two teachers up there representing us to the Portage County ESC, we put together the presentation in the meeting, and we were all very pleasantly surprised to find that for the year 2008, Waterloo actually did the best of any school in the county, based on readiness and based on the criteria and based on how it was put together. So that's quite something that I think the entire staff needs to be commended for, and the entire student body. That's said an awful lot. So that was a nice, pleasant surprise, something to see that was completely done outside of us. We had nothing to do with the data, nothing to do with putting it together. So it was all done by the county. So that was very, very proud of the students and staff and everybody for that.
One thing I thought that would be really beneficial to do, and I know I brought this up probably a couple years ago, but is to send out, who knows how many to get back, but surveys to the recent graduates that maybe have been in college for a year, and just to get the feedback, what have we done well, what would you like to have seen us do differently? I think that kind of information would really be invaluable to get back.
I know that when we were trying to do a levy committee, trying to get a hold of the kids that graduated recently to send letters to, it was a bit of a challenge to find them.
Yeah, I can.
So I think that would be a pretty big job, but if we had volunteers to help with it, that'd be great, because I would hate to see someone spending time. I mean, it's a good idea, but I don't want them to take away from their daily job to do that.
No, exactly.
It's one of those things that, just because of the age of my kids, one that's graduated high school and graduated college, and the other one is in college. So you see their friends, they're both still have a lot of friends from a lot of the districts, so you see those kids and you see, and from my experience of talking to their friends and that, they all seem to be doing well, seem to be on track. Nobody was flunking out, I guess I would say. They're so good friends, so that's encouraging. But that's admittedly that's maybe 20 kids or so from a class of the last 2 or 3 classes, and maybe another 20 kids from the class of 2005 and 6 and 7. So it's kind of spread out a little bit. But that's admittedly that's just a small group. But that is, from talking to them, they all seem to be doing okay. And one toughest thing I think a lot of kids have trouble trying to figure out when they go to college is what do they want to study. I mean, if a kid knows at a young age or when they are in school what they want to do and they can get on that path, they're very fortunate, because a lot of kids don't know until you would be a sophomore in college and you spent a year and a half on taking this kind of curriculum. And hold on a second, I think this is, I want to go in this other direction. So that seems to me to be the bigger trouble that kids have. So if you know what you want to do after you graduate, you're very fortunate.
The only other thing I had under other business, there was some stuff on Facebook today that people were wondering about levy committees. There's always a levy committee. It's an ongoing thing, it seems, but in the last year, it's been an ongoing thing anyway. So if anybody is interested in helping with the levy committee, you can see Dr. Hill, you can see, sorry, Andy and Benny don't want you to talk to them, but one of us three here, because they're out. We have new members that are going to be on the school board. We have Ken Fletcher and Steve Jones. Congratulate you guys for that. And you can see them too, because they've been involved in it too. So, but I want to thank Benny and Andy, and next month we'll do a little bit more for that. But next month is the last meeting, so. But if you do want to help, we really want to be able to get a lot more people on the committee to help, because even though we have a lot on the committee, when it comes time to do things, it seems like everybody or 10 show up, so the same people. So I'm sure any of those leaders of those committees would love to have 50 people show up and say, what do you want me to do? So that would be wonderful. Plus, it also helps you know what's going on, so that you can pass that word along to other people, and we can get the word out a lot more about what a great thing we have here at Waterloo. Anybody else have anything to add?
Before I go on, I did find those letters, probably depending on when we submit our letter to them. In previous years, they replied to us once toward the end of January, and then there was 2 other years where they replied to us in the middle of February.
And then they give us a deadline if it's not good enough, or has it always been okay? What would you give me?
Well, the one time we said we were going to put 11 on the ballot, which was sufficient because of the deficit, they did not approve that. And then the last 2 were February 19th and one was February 18th.
So how do you know exactly what the regular meeting is? You always have the documents there.
My financial Bible right here for division.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to throw a curve at you.
No, that's okay. I have, it's just my taking a little time to find it, that's all.
Thank
Okay.
you.
First item is recommend to approve the October minutes.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the October minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Any questions or comments? Roll call?
Pop,
Yes.
Whittlesey, Gump,
Yes.
Pusateri,
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next item is recommend to approve the September financial statements.
Can I have a motion to approve the September financial statements?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? Roll call?
Pop,
Yes.
Whittlesey, Gump,
Yes.
Pusateri,
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next item is usually the standard November recommendation. That's to approve payment of transportation to the following students based on the fact that it has been determined that it's impractical to provide transportation for those students to the selected schools of their choice.
Can we make a comment on that? Because there's a lot of questions that come up about this too. We are required as a public school district to transport students within 30 minutes of our building here, or the building that they would attend, to non-public private schools, like St. Thomas, Lake Center Christian, St. Matthews that are on here, and also to community schools. So we do not have, there seems to be a perception out there that we have this ability to decide that we don't want to do that. And the reality is that Ohio Revised Code requires us to. And in these cases, we determine for various reasons that it's not practical for us to do that, but we're still required, so we have to do a payment in lieu of instead. And that minimum payment is set by the state, correct?
Okay, can I have a motion to approve payment in lieu of transportation for those listed below?
So moved.
Second? Second. Questions or comments?
Yeah, just a question. How is that determination made? If you have, is there like a certain number of students that would go with us, or how do, or is it just kind of general?
Well, I guess when there's so few students such as this, we never really crunched the numbers.
Right.
Because to transport 3 students down to St. Thomas, when you figure the bus driver's salary plus cost of mileage,
Right.
things of that nature.
Yeah.
For 3 kids, 3 students, that's pretty easy to say, well, that's not really practical financially
I just didn't know if the state was.
to do
something.
that.
They do, Danny. They have about 9 different criteria that give you guidance that you can choose from. I think in our cases, it's exactly what Todd's talking about.
Yeah.
But there are a number of other reasons that they list that you could choose to deem something impractical.
You know, if we find there's a large increase of students in one of those schools, then we probably take a look at it to see if it makes sense to do that.
Financial.
We did that years ago when we had more students that used to go to St. Thomas than what we currently do now. We used to have St. Thomas fund dedicated solely for that.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Roll call?
Pop,
Yes.
Whittlesey, Gump,
Yes.
Pussenterra,
Yes.
Burchett.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Moving on to item D, recommend to accept the following donations as listed.
Can I have a motion to accept the following donations as listed?
So moved.
Second. Sorry. I was just- Any questions or comments? Roll call?
Pop,
Yes.
Whittlesey,
Yes.
Gump,
Yes.
Pussenterra,
Yes.
Burchett.
Did you say yes? Maybe? Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you. Motion passes. Sorry about that.
Next item is recommend to approve participation in the following state and federal grant programs for fiscal year 12, along with the fiscal year 11 carryovers, and to create the necessary revenue and expenditure accounts.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve participation in the following state and federal grant programs for fiscal year 11, along with fiscal year 12, fiscal year 12 along with fiscal year 11 period.
So moved.
Second?
Second. Oh.
Any questions or comments? Roll call?
Pop,
Yes.
Whittlesey,
Yes.
Gump,
Yes.
Pussenterra,
Yes.
Burchett.
Yes.
Motion passes.
And the last item I have, recommend to approve the following carryover fund transfers.
Can I have a motion to approve the following carryover transfers?
So moved.
Second?
A second.
Any questions or comments? Down to the pen.
That in essence clears out fiscal year 11 funds.
Okay. Roll call?
Pop,
Yes.
Whittlesey, Gump,
Yes.
Pussenterra,
Yes.
Burchett.
Yes.
Motion passes.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Ken. Can I have a motion to go into executive session for issues A8 and B?
So moved.
Second? Second. Any questions, comments? Roll call?
Pop,
Yes.
Whittlesey, Gump,
Yes.
Pussenterra,
Yes.
Burchett.
Yes.
Motion passes. We don't expect any action coming out of executive session, so you guys don't sit here while we talk. Thank you all for coming. Yeah, you both.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, well, I asked you to send it.